The more you sacrifice yourself to be liked, the more you train the world to ignore who you really are. The addiction to approval is an invisible cage that you need to break out of. You were not born a people pleaser. You were trained. Trained to smile when you disagree. Trained to say yes when your entire body screams no. Trained to measure your worth by how comfortable you make others feel. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you choose approval over authenticity, you reinforce a quiet lie that your value is negotiable. This is where the trap begins. In The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene explains that human beings are wired for social cohesion. We are deeply sensitive to the emotions and opinions of others. It's survival instinct. We evolved to belong. To be accepted by the group meant safety. But in the modern world, that instinct has been hijacked. Instead of belonging, we chase validation. Instead of connection, we perform. You don't speak your truth, you calculate reactions. You don't express your needs, you edit them. And over time, something dangerous happens. You lose your internal compass. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What will they think?" This is the psychological cost Greene warns about, the erosion of self-awareness. You become reactive instead of intentional. You become shaped by others instead of grounded in yourself. And here's the irony. The more you try to be liked, the less real you become. The less real you become, the less respect you command. Because people don't trust what feels artificial, even if they benefit from it. So you're left in a paradox. Liked, but not valued. Accepted, but not known. Included, but invisible. This is not connection. This is self-erasure disguised as harmony. And it only gets worse from here. People-pleasing is not kindness. It is strategy, a subconscious one. Greene describes how much of our behavior is driven by hidden emotional forces, forces we barely understand. And one of the strongest is the fear of rejection. Not discomfort, not disagreement, rejection. Because rejection threatens identity. So you adapt. You soften your opinions. You dilute your personality. You become agreeable, accommodating, easy. Not because it's who you are, but because it feels safer than standing alone. But here's the cost no one talks about. Every unspoken boundary becomes a silent act of self-betrayal. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate what you resent. You give what you cannot afford. And slowly, resentment begins to grow, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Because deep down, you know. You know you're not being honest. You know you're performing. You know you're shrinking. Greene calls this internal conflict a form of self-sabotage. You think you're avoiding conflict externally, but you're creating chaos internally. And that chaos leaks. It shows up as passive aggression, as burnout, as unexplained frustration, as a quiet, persistent dissatisfaction with your life. Because your life is no longer aligned with your truth. Here's the brutal reality. People-pleasing doesn't make you a better person. It makes you easier to control. And the more you prioritize being liked, the more you invite people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. You become surrounded, not by those who respect you, but by those who expect you. And expectation is a prison, one you built by never saying no. There is a version of you that people see, and there is a version of you that you hide. Green calls this the mask and the shadow. The mask is polite, agreeable, easygoing. The shadow is everything you suppress: anger, ambition, assertiveness, truth. And the more you people please, the stronger that shadow becomes. Because suppression does not eliminate, it intensifies. Every time you swallow your opinion, it doesn't disappear, it accumulates. Every time you avoid conflict, it doesn't resolve, it mutates. Until one day, it leaks. Unexpectedly, emotionally, explosively. That moment when you overreact, that's not random. That's the shadow demanding recognition. Green makes it clear: the most dangerous individuals are not those who express their darker traits, but those who repress them. Because repression creates distortion. Instead of direct communication, you become indirect. Instead of honest disagreement, you become quietly resentful. And people feel it. They sense something is off. You smile, but there's tension behind it. You agree, but there's hesitation in your tone. And this creates distrust. Not because you're a bad person, but because you're an inconsistent one. Your mask says one thing, your energy says another. And over time, this disconnect damages your relationships more than honesty ever could. Because real connection requires clarity, and clarity requires truth. But you've been avoiding truth to be liked. And in doing so, you've sacrificed the one thing that creates genuine respect: authenticity. Here's where everything changes. Power does not come from being liked. It comes from being clear. Clear about who you are. Clear about what you want. Clear about what you will and will not tolerate. Green emphasizes the importance of developing an inner authority, a grounded sense of self that is not easily swayed by external validation. This is the antidote to people-pleasing. And it starts with a simple, uncomfortable shift. You stop prioritizing approval and start prioritizing truth. This doesn't mean becoming aggressive. It doesn't mean being insensitive. It means being honest. You say what you mean. You set boundaries without apology. You accept that not everyone will like you. And that's the point. Because when you stop trying to be liked by everyone, something powerful happens. The right people begin to respect you, not for what you give them, but for who you are. You become consistent, predictable in your values, grounded in your decisions, and that consistency builds trust, even from those who disagree with you, because authenticity is rare, and rarity commands attention. So yes, some people will walk away. Let them. They were never connected to you, only to your compliance. The goal is not to be universally liked. The goal is to be selectively respected. Because in the end, being liked is temporary, but being real is power. If this conversation gave you something to think about, a new perspective, or even a small sense of clarity, then this channel is for you. Consider joining this growing community by subscribing and leave a like on the video so more people searching for answers can find these ideas too. Your support keeps these conversations alive. Until the next video, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep pondering life's journeys.